Well, all right, can you tell us your full name?
Macario Gill.
And what branch of the military did you serve in?
I went in the Navy. I joined the Navy at 17 and a half. And I went to Farragut, Idaho for boot training. And from there, I went to Bremerton because I was going to be assigned to a ship there, but my ship that I was assigned to hadn't come back in. I didn't know it until later on that that was one of the ships that went on that carrier task force with them B-25s, the first bombing in Japan. That was one of the ships that went down there, but I was knowing that. And they had to bring it back, and you always get repairs before you go back out to sea. So I had to wait 2 weeks, and I got brig guard in Seattle, in Bremerton, should I say. That wasn't a very good job because it was raining outside all the time. You had to be walking around that stupid building there. Once I got done with that, the ship got in, I finally got on board. And the first thing I had to do there is peel potatoes because they hadn't had my job assigned to me yet or anything. So it says, well, we'll put you on that for now. So I was peeling potatoes for I don't know how long. I told the cook over there, I says, I'd like to be a cook, not one of these. He said, well, you stay with us. You'll finally get to be a cook. Take your cook rating. So I stood with them. And afterwards, I was just a helper in the cooking and all that. And then when the other guys were old enough to leave, well, then I got the dumb thing, cooking. And this is on the tail end of the Navy part of it. They told me, he says, well, if you stay 6 more months, we'll give you Petty Officer 3rd Class. I said, I'll tell you, you can keep your rating. I said, I'm going home. So I did. That's where I ended my Navy career, all that. But as far as going over there, when we left on board ship, we went to I think the Numfor Islands, they called up there, Marshall Islands, because that's where all the whole fleet, I couldn't believe it when we got out there. As far as you could see, there was nothing but Navy ships all around that place there. I said, my God, I said, I figured you'd get sunk with submarines or something in there. He says, don't worry about that. He says, we got this all surrounded, radar and submarines and everything. He says, ain't nobody gonna come in here. So they didn't until after we got assigned to go out. And we was on patrols all over, and then we went up, like I said, to the first invasion was up here, and I don't remember what island it was, but it's small islands they was hitting all down the line. And I finally got up to the Marshall Islands, and then that's when we joined the task force, the big task force, the carriers, battle wagons, everything. That's when we start going over to Japan and start bombing that up there. And it was a lot, you'd think they'd go out there and take off, and we'd turn around and take off going the other way because we knew the Japs were going to be coming after the carriers. That's what they wanted to sink, the carriers. So when we turn out, take back, why, them planes bombed, and then they come back. And as usual, the planes did try to come over and, bomb and sink your ships and everything. But luckily, we got out without any hits or anything. And the 3 or 4 times we went down there, so I said, well, that's nice. And then finally, one of the last ones, I think they had a cruiser, a light cruiser that got hit with a torpedo from the Japs. So they pulled us off the task force. We was going to escort it back to Numfor to get it repaired. And of course, they were still trying to come over and finish it off. So then they finally told us to come alongside because we were going to pick up survivors. We picked up survivors for a while, and then they said, no, he says, the ship is going to stay afloat. So we're going to try to go with the tugboat that's already tugging it. We're going to try to get over to Numfor with it. So we finally got in there and got away from that. So then we got back on the task force. But it was the same old thing, There's nothing heroic about it. It's scary, yeah, as far as that goes. But there's a lot of things that I wouldn't believe had happened out there. In Saipan, I knew there was a bunch of Marines that buried up in the cemetery up there, but we never got to go up there. I'd like to went up there, but we was out of bounds for the Navy guys up there. He said, no, you can't go up there. So I didn't get there, so we stood around Saipan, and then they put us on what do they call it? They made us a head ship for all the ships that's going to go out on the runs. In other words, just like a radar ship for all the other ships assigned. They had an admiral on board that made all the assignments to all the ships going out of there. And that was boring, just sitting there. And then other guy says, boring is I wish you'd been with me. I says, no, I've been there before, so I didn't like it, so I was satisfied with there. And then we went over to the Philippines because we found out the Japs were trying to get our ships out there, and they wanted us to go out there and, in case you got a chance, torpedo some of them ships, because that's what our destroyers are for torpedo. You got, I think 8 torpedoes on board, 4 on each side. And that way, if we had a chance, we could go there and try to get some of their ships. But we never wasn't that fortunate as far as that goes. But some of them did get them. And then I think they sunk one of their battle wagons. Once they got that, well, then the Japs turned around and headed for Japan. So, but there was a lot of people in there that knew what they were doing. Me, I was just a gunner. I mean, I went in a 5-inch. My job was stick a shell in there, the powdered shell, after the projector stick in there, and then when they fired it, I was supposed to get that powdered cake, throw it out the hole because they're red hot. They'll burn you if you don't throw them out. And so I didn't like it because them things bounced all over when they come out of that thing hitting that deck. And, we had asbestos gloves and everything to protect ourselves from it. But other than that, why, the Navy was just the Navy. We went to a lot of other islands, but there was nothing significant about them. It's just another island they had to go through. The natives down there in them islands, they were real nice, even though they didn't know how to talk, but they were still nice. Of course, they wanted food and everything, that's what they come for. They'd try to come up far as the ship, see if they'd hand it to them and all that. But they wouldn't let him get up so close. He says, you don't know. He says, he might be one of them guys come up there and just throw a bomb on something on board the ship. You wouldn't know anything about it. So they had to stay so far away. Liberty time, that's what I was looking for. That's the fun time of it. We had liberties on the islands. They'd take so much beer ashore, so you'd sit there and drink your beer and come back to the ship, but you couldn't bring none with you. So that was all right. Some of them guys didn't drink, so I helped them drink their part. I was a cook, so they knew they'd get something extra. But as far as life in the Navy, you couldn't ask it any better. I wouldn't have wanted to be in the Army, I'll tell you for sure, because there in some of them islands, you could see some of them soldiers with all their gear and everything going down up in there and getting shot up and everything. You could see it from where you're at, clear up in there, binoculars and everything. And then you'd be thankful you're on board a ship, not down there like them poor guys were. My brother, he was in the Army. I guess he was, what do they call him? He was kind of like a sniper, though, they used for going in there and checking them out and everything like that. And I think that's why he got killed in one of them runs like that. Of course, he got some himself, that snipers that he caught the same way. But I really didn't get too much of his history in the Army. I did find out that they buried him in Holland, and them people down there have been taking care of them all these years. How'd you ever come in contact with them? Somehow we got in contact with them people down there.
Out from Salina.
Yeah. Oh, he wanted to check into us.
He was looking for
Yeah, he was looking for us, the family, and that's how we got in contact with him. But she did all the writing back and forth. I didn't have nothing to do with it because I'm not one to know how to do all that stuff. She was secretary of school up here. She doesn't know what she's doing, and she does a very good job. So our history, as far as the Navy goes, that's about all you see of it.
Tell me what you were doing before the war.
What was I doing before the war? I was working for the Santa Fe Railroad. The way it was, I got out of the Navy and went to work for the Santa Fe, but they said, I was working there before, and they said, well, we laid off people, so we can't hire you. So I went to work for the Union Pacific then, over in New Cambria. That's where I met this woman up here, and so that's where I was down there. You know, her father told me, he said, well, they're hiring work at the railroad there, because I was working in mills in Salina, and there was nothing good about the mills, I'll tell you for sure. Dirty and everything. So I said, yeah, I'm ready to go back to the railroad. Paid a lot better money and everything. So I went down there and worked for them, and from there I had to bump into Detroit, Kansas, because somebody bumped me out, and so I bumped them out. And then I seen a kid there in Abilene. He says, I'm in Abilene. He says, you can't get me. I says, I got more seniority than you. You got surprises coming to you. He said, well, you can't. So I did. I checked in. He said, yeah, you can go to Abilene. I said, well, I'm going to Abilene. It's home, my gosh. So I did, and he finally went to Junction City or someplace. I don't know if we quit the railroad or not, but he didn't like it. I said, I have no choice. They're bumping me. I have to bump you. So that's the railroad for you. Seniority prevails. So, but the railroad is hard work. I know that. I ain't really crazy about it, but I didn't stay that long with it because I think I stood with the railroad 16 and a half years. And then I went, and they told me, he says, well, this security mill, we need an operator here. If you want to operate that? I said, yeah, I'll operate it, because I knew how to do it, because I was working over at the flour mill before. So I went to work the security mill. I don't know how many years I worked there. And then that's when it was still, they didn't have too much in there. All they had was alfalfa pellets stored in them. That was the dirtiest job of all. I didn't like that. But they took them all out, and then a guy from Kansas City outfit bought the elevator, and then they cleaned it all out, put new stuff in there, filled it all with grain elevator. They're shipping cars there all the time. They're still shipping cars out of there. That's how much you can see them bring in 20 cars at a time, and they load them up overnight. So they're pretty fast at it. I don't have nothing to do with it because I wasn't there when they renewed all that stuff. But I knew that guy said, he said, well, it's going to be different. There ain't going to be no more alfalfa pellets here.
So,
I hated them.
So tell me again, I know you said it off camera, but about how you told your dad that you're going to go.
Oh, I told my dad, I says, I'm going to join the Navy. He says, no, you're not. He said, you're not old enough, and I'm not going to sign the papers. I says, well, anybody can sign, and you won't know the difference, and they won't know the difference. So after arguing with him, he said, all right, I'll sign them. He says, don't try to come crying to me, you want to come home. I said, don't worry, they won't let me. Once I'm signed, I'm stuck there. So, we got along well as far as that goes. It's just that he didn't want me to go because I was the last of the boys in the family. So, but I joined the Navy, and I never regretted it. I enjoyed Navy life. It was good life. You've seen a lot of country and everything on it, so Navy is better than the Army, I can say that, because I've seen them poor doughboys. Oh, their life was hell. It was. And you can ask any of them, and they'll tell you the same thing. Of course, in the Navy, when you're out in task force and everything, Japs out there trying to sink you, you think you're in a heck of a mess, but you luck out, you're all right. But we had so many, carrier fighter planes and everything. They protect them carriers and everything. There wasn't nobody going to get in there. They'd run them off or shoot them down or the other. And, of course, the ships are all shooting at them, too. So, he was pretty safe because we knew there was after the carriers. That's what the destroyers were for on each side, for protecting the carrier. So when we first went in there, though, we was assigned I don't know what outfit it was, but we didn't have no ice cream or nothing. And whenever we went out, picked up carrier pilots, take them back, then they give us ice cream. So that was a treat. Till we finally come back to the States, and then they finally put ice cream making machines on board our ship. So, and I was in charge of that, so I had enough ice cream. But that's about all there was on that part of it.
So what was the name of the ship that you served on?
Pardon?
What's the name of the ship that you served on?
The USS Grayson, DD 435. That was the old Fletcher type destroyers. The newer ones, these were single turret 5 inches. The new ones come out with double turrets right next to each other. And as far as, I don't know if they had 20 millimeters or not, we had 20 millimeters on the backside of the 5-inch gun turrets, where the guys, protect you from either side. In the same way on the fantail, they had them same way that way too. And they had, on that far tail end, you had your depth charges on each side in case, you spot or they get radar submarine or something. Well, then they drop them, but we never had to. We never had no problem with that, so.
So did you have any basic training that you
What?
had, did you have any basic training that you had to go through?
Well, boot camp training, marching and all that, yeah, with your rifle. Yeah, we had that when we first went in there. They give you a dummy rifle and you walk around. So, yeah, that's boot training. That's what they call boot training. Get you exercise, marching, so you can march in groups, just like soldiers do, turn and everything like you're supposed to with your gun. Yeah, we had that boot training like that as far as that goes. But that was all right. I didn't mind that. I learned a little bit that way.
Were you involved in any type of invasions?
Invasion? Well, up in New Guinea and all that, we was in taking soldiers ashore to invasion, but that's as close we got as far as invasion goes. I don't know why they picked us. There was a bunch of destroyers that picked up a bunch of troops, and we went in there because evidently they must not have had any. They must have got rid of all the Japs had up there because they wouldn't have put a destroyer up that close to shore without getting hit. But they wanted to get them islands occupied, so we had to take them soldiers in there. And as far as invasions, I wasn't really assigned any invasions because the task force, all there is for is to hit Japan, full force and all that, but you don't have it where you're going to have invasions, LSTs and all that going in there. So I never had no part of that. Thank goodness, that's awful slow. We escorted one LST for someplace, I don't know where it was, and I think I could have walked in the back of that water and pushed it faster than they was moving. That's slow they are. They're big and clumsy, that's why they can't travel very fast. But them guys must have had a life they liked on there because I wouldn't want to be on one of them. That's the last place I want to be. Light cruisers are a beautiful ship. I wish I'd have been on one of them, but I got assigned a destroyer. After I got on a destroyer, I was satisfied. At least if I was going to cook, I didn't have to cook for so many people. But in the Navy, cooking, scrubbing, and all that stuff, you got to do it yourself.
Now, being on the destroyer, did you ever get enemy fire on your destroyer, or did you experience any kamikaze?
Oh, we had planes coming out. Yeah, we had them 5 inches, and then 40 millimeters. They was always shooting at them like that. Of course, like I said, I'm in a 5-inch. I'm enclosed, and I don't get to see them, but they're shooting at them. I know because I have to put the powder in there and kick the shell out and everything. So, and they was shooting them as fast as they could. But yeah, that kind of attack we've been into, But I couldn't see it because, like I said, we're enclosed, so that way you can't. The only guy I can see is to the 5-inch that the gun that shoots out there, and they just follow because the radar above there switches over to that, and that automatically follows everything out there they want to shoot at. So everything's automatically. All you got to do is put the stuff in it for that gun to shoot.
Where were you on Victory in Europe Day, VE Day?
I think I was headed back to my ship. I was home. I was headed back to ship. And I got on board the ship. He said, well, the war's over. We're going home. So we went to Charleston. We were going to go to New York for Navy Day. I was glad. I'd like to see New York. Got down there and we got word, no, you're going to go to Charleston, South Carolina. I says, Charleston, why Charleston? He said, because that's where this ship was built and they want it there. So that's where I ended up in Charleston. And that's where I got discharged, here in Charleston. And talk about getting out of town there. You can't get out of town very good. Train service, bus service is terrible in there. We got on the train, and I don't think we went from one station to the other, and that's as far as it went. Had to get a bus or something else. I thought it took me about a week getting home from that outfit. I said, boy, that's terrible. I imagine it's probably better now than it was.
Looking at your paper here, you were a part of the Bismarck operation?
The what?
The Bismarck operation?
Bismarck.
Bismarck.
No.
How about the Western New Guinea operations?
Yeah, we was there for all the New Guineas there.
Can you tell me anything about those operations?
Well, you like I said, on board ship, you don't see nothing because the landing forces are way ahead of you there. First, we go in there and start bombarding the islands. And not only the destroyers, other ships are bombarding the heck out of that thing there. Then when we move out, then they start putting in their landing forces in there. And we just sit back. If they have trouble, they'll ask for a salvo or something someplace where they might have interference. Other than that, like I said, the soldier boys were the one that done all the dirty work. I had it made because I wasn't on that dirty ground fighting them like that, because that was something else. That's why I joined the Navy, because I didn't want that. Not only that, I joined the Navy because I seen some of them soldiers, you see them marching with great big old packs on their backs and everything. I couldn't do that. That's hard work. I worked on rotor, but that's hard work. Them poor guys had a lot of work to do like that. And the kid that worked on rotor with me, that got hooked up with my brother up in Europe, and they both got killed up there. This kid that used to live in Elmo. I worked there on rotor with his folks. By the name, his name is Manuel Salas, and he was a good friend of mine. As far as that goes, the family all were good to me because I boarded with him while I was working on rotor there. And then after he joined the Army, well, I come home, and I didn't join the Navy till later on, because like Dad said, you're too old, you're too young to join. I said, too young, yet I could work on rotor, and my God, that's hard work. It is hard work, but you get used to it. If you want a paycheck, that's where you have to do it. So, but yeah, I was in Elmo for a while there. After that, we went to work at the Harrington Air Base. And I don't know what came up. They wanted something. Wanted us to pay for membership dues and everything in there. I says, forget it. I says, you're not going to get nothing out of me. I come to work, not to have to pay out. She said, well, we can't hire you. I said, well, it's too bad. I'm going home. And so I never worked. Worked at the base a couple of days, and that's it, because they wouldn't going to let you work anymore without your dues paid and everything. Oh, they got all kinds. Dues for this, dues for that. You got to pay something.
Let me ask you, how many brothers did you have? You said all of them went to service?
Yes, I had 3 brothers and myself, Let's see, I had Larry, Loopy, Vincent, Manuel, and I, 5. So Larry, he got discharged, medically discharged. But Vincent, Loopy, he was over in Iceland in the Air Force or something. I don't know what he really was, but he was in the Navy, but he was there. And Vincent, he was in the Navy here. He was assigned as a gunner's mate on a merchant marine ship of all places. I says, in the Navy and on board that? Thank God I wasn't on board of that. I wouldn't have liked that at all. You know, them merchant ships, them submarines and everything, trying to think them going across. But he said, no, he survived it all, didn't have no trouble. And me, like I said, I got assigned to that ship there in Bremerton. I was glad I got on board ship that, because we didn't have no transports or nothing. If you wanted to move, that ship could really move down that ocean, I'll tell you for sure. But other than that, I enjoyed the Navy. I'd encourage anybody who wants to join the Navy instead of the Army anytime. The Army might be sorting me out, but I can't help it.
When did you find out that your brother had passed away?
I was on board the ship, but I really don't remember when that was, that day. I was on board the ship. I don't remember where I was at, but I got a letter from my sister telling me that he got killed over there, so that's the only thing I heard about him. Yeah, we used to run around and fight all the time. His brothers, you know, with our. He finally got married to a girl in Salina, and that's the last we seen of him. He didn't come home very much, of which I could understand why if he got married. But, oh, he was pretty happy up there. But his wife, I guess when he left, they had a baby who was born. And was he stillborn? Huh? Yeah, he was stillborn, so they buried him down there at that Catholic cemetery. When we go down to take flowers to her mother and brothers there in Salina, well, we take flowers, because his grave is not very far from ours there. And then her other brother's buried in that other new cemetery they got there in Salina now. He's buried over there. My parents are all buried here in Abilene. So.
Did your service in World War II affect the rest of your life in any way?
No. No, once I get away from that, I was done with it. I had a brother in the Army, my sister's husband. He was a career man, though, because he was in the National Guard and everything else before he went in the Army. And he come home. I think he died of cancer, though, didn't he? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What about, what lessons for today's generation do you have?
Lessons?
Yeah.
This old man couldn't give you lessons. He didn't learn lessons himself. Well, if you're going to make a career of it, make a good one and choose what you want to do, not what they tell you to do. You want to get in the Air Force? That's a good place to go. If I'd known, I'd have tried that before I'd went in any of these. And but I'd rather have the Navy over the Army any day. Yeah, I got a brother-in-law that was in the Air Force. He loved it there. He was a mechanic in the Air Force. Well, our son, he was a mechanic in the Navy on the planes, as far as that goes. He went to school over there in Cincinnati.
Kingsville.
Huh?
Kingsville.
No, I know he was in Kingsville, but the training school was in Cincinnati, Naval Training School. So he went from there to Kingsville, Texas, but he was learning for taking jet mechanic for airplanes and all that. before when he got assigned, they had him over there in where that helicopter were. Where was that at? Out in the desert.
Well, that was Kingsville.
Is it Kingsville? Okay. He was out in the desert there for a while, assigned to them helicopters down there, till he finally got moved out. So he didn't like that desert. I didn't either. We went down there. It is desolate. But he loved his job. He loved mechanical jobs and all that. He,
I was just reading here that you guys would take up survivors out of the water, but was that something that you saw or not because you were?
well, off of that cruiser that was hit, you know, they thought that it was going to sink, and there was already survivors in the water. So they picked them up, and then we went alongside and let the others jump across, you know, because we was that close to each other, rubbing against each other, jumping across. And then the captain stopped him. He says, I don't think this ship's going to sink, so no more. So we didn't take no more. We didn't take very many. And they took it in towed and took it to Ulithi. That's where they're going to patch it up and send it on to the United States. But other than that, there's much more I knew about that. You know, I knew they was going to take it back, get fixed.
Can you tell me a little bit about the island bombardments?
Oh, that's in Mindanao. Yeah, we were supposed to go in there to that, take out some radar stations. They had, the Japs had radar stuff in there because they wanted to get them all out of there before the big invasion come in to go back into the Philippines up there. But there's one island there that peeked out, and that's where they had the radar stuff in there. There's 2 or 3 destroyers that went in there. We shaped ourselves out there where we just shot the heck out of it. And later on, when we went back to ship, he said, you didn't know it, but you had a submarine out there. I said, what's the submarine going to do? He said, well, we figured if you got shot out of the water, we'd pick up survivors. I said, I didn't know that. So I'm glad I didn't.
What about the attack on the Houston?
The Houston, it was hit, but I didn't get to see that part of it, you know, because we was all in a whole task force. And they took us, they said, well, we got the ship that got hit. He says, and we're going to pull it out because they can't keep up with the rest of the task force. And we're going to have it escorted back to Ulysses. So we turned around and started escorting it and had a tug pulling the Houston because they couldn't go on its own. And 2 destroyers went on each side. And they started going down there. And then, of course, the Japs tried to come in there, you know, and shoot it and sink it and everything else. So we had to protect that part of it. And there was a submarine in there someplace. They said that they seen a torpedo go under your bow when that water was bouncing up and down like that. And one of the guys in the water said something about it, but how true it is, I don't know. Went under our bow. I said, why didn't it hit the ship? He said, because you was on the end of it, and it just went on the end of the ship over there, so it didn't hit anybody. Thank goodness for that. But I didn't know nothing about it till one of the other guys told me about it. So, now this, in the Navy, I'll tell you there, when they go out in task force, they go out fast and swift. Any place you go, you got carriers, battle wagons and everything, and you got planes that take off of there where they're going to do assignment to go bombard someplace. And then we know when they're coming back in. So they usually speed up the ship and head it to the wind so that way they can come in and land with it that way. So other than that, that's just Navy life for you.
Is there anything about your service that I didn't ask about that you want to share?
No, not much as far as Navy, just the Navy life. I was a cook, and that's it. It's better than chipping paint, I know that.
Do you have anything to add?
No, he kind of covered it there the last time we talked about it.
Yeah, you covered pretty much all the questions.
And then do you want to ask some questions about Dwight Eisenhower?
Yeah, sure. So Dwight Eisenhower being like not the president at the time, but like the general, what did you like most about his like command and whatnot during the war?
I still didn't hear him.
Oh, so Dwight Eisenhower, what did you like about his leadership?
I think he did an excellent job. He really did. From what I seen in here or in Europe, I think he done a very good job. You couldn't have got a better man to take care of it. So I think they did a wise choice when they put him in there.
Then how do you think being general for the U.S. Helped him like further on in his career, like being president of the United States?
With him being a general, how do you feel like that helped him to become eventually the president?
Well, as a general, he did an excellent job where he was at, and the people seen what he done, and when he come back, they figured they better get a good leader while they got it, so they got him. That's the way I looked at it then. I'm a Democrat, but not a Republican, but I'd still would have voted for him.
So, quick question, excuse me,
You're
because
good.
of my voice. What kind of leadership style did you see with Eisenhower?
Leadership, well, from what I've seen, and other than, news and all that, you couldn't ask for any better. That's all I can say for him. You couldn't ask for a better leadership.
What kind of leadership style did he have? Was he a dictator? What kind of leadership style?
Well, I wouldn't know, not dictator, but I wouldn't know otherwise say that just like any other person that, like presidents before him, they was all good leaders. Of course, some of them I didn't like, but they're still good leaders.
What are some of the leadership qualities you saw in Eisenhower that you liked?
Well, he understood the people. That's the main thing. He understood his people, and he knew how to take care of them. That's what I thought of his leadership. Now, did I answer your question? I hope.
Absolutely.
Good.
It's your perspective.
Thank you.
It's your perspective, totally. Any other questions? Did you ever have a chance to meet Eisenhower?
No, I personally didn't get to meet him. The closest I got to him was when I was working on the railroad here, and he's coming down here, and he's coming in his caravan there, and that's the closest I got to see him.
What visit was it? Do you remember? Was it when he was running for president? Was it when he returned from the war? Do you remember when it was?
Not really, because he was still, I think he's still in civilian clothes then when he came across that place there. He wasn't no uniform or anything like that, so he probably already going for president then.
Coming back to visit Mom?
Yep. He sure did.
You're obviously from Abilene.
Yes, I was born and raised here.
What makes you most proud about being from Abilene?
From Abilene? Abilene is a nice, clean town, respected people. That's what I liked about them. Yes, Abilene is a very nice town. My wife was a secretary here in schools, so I know she loved them, and the kids all loved her, so she got along good with a lot of people. But yeah, Abilene, you couldn't ask for a better town to live in.
Anything else?
All right. Matt, you
Thank
did
you.
absolutely
good.
wonderful.